It's a brand new post-holiday week. We're back with several brand new discussion topics. It's a whole new week, a whole new conversation. Welcome back to 360 Speedway. Hello one and all, welcome back to 360 HQ. Hope all is good with you. Hope you're fit and well and super keen, as we are, to get stuck into some more brain-racking Speedway discussion. Settle down, make yourselves comfortable. Let's get underway then with episode 19. Let's start as we routinely do, first off, by introducing this week's lineup. First up, he's more or less just jetted back in from a sunshine break, showing off his tan and ready to tackle the Speedway debates this evening. Welcome back into the 360 fold. It's our Robbo, Stuart Robson. Welcome back.
Evening, Derek. Evening, all.
Next up, we're super stoked to have this guy in our 360 team. He's not just here to potter around either. Have you seen what I've done yet? He tells it just like it is. He is a hull of a guy. Let's welcome back, up Crabby, Nigel Crabtree.
Hey up, Derek. Hi, everybody.
That took me ages to script that, Nigel. And finally, completing this week's 360 lineup, I didn't get a chance to catch up with this guy when he was in my neighbourhood over the weekend. He'd only have made me look my age anyway, although looking at his little growth on his chin, he's beginning to look his age. It's Big Mac, Stuart McDonald. Welcome back, Big Stuart.
Evening, guys. Evening, team.
Collectively, this week's handlebar heroes. Usual disclaimer, which I think I failed to say on the last episode, that all the views and opinions expressed by us are those of us as individuals and bear no relation, no resemblance to any of those necessarily held by our clubs, current or former associations in Speedway, or something like that. Right, listen, guys, let's get back into the Speedway discussion. I'm chomping at the bit to start talking Speedway again after an enjoyable couple of weeks break. Out there in 360 Speedway land, I hope you have enjoyed a little bit of a pause on 360 Speedway. Hope it's given you a chance to either go for the holiday. I hope you have enjoyed it if you've been on the holiday yourself, or else to catch up a little bit on our back catalogue, our sizable back catalogue, which is in our YouTube channel. Search us out on YouTube, 360 Speedway. There are hours and hours of quality Speedway discussions and a few laughs along the way. So if you haven't yet had the chance to do that, then create some time for yourself, settle down with a drink and a bag of popcorn, and fill your boots on 360's Speedway's YouTube channel. Gents, just before we get into our first discussion topic tonight, I wanted to draw your attention to. I'm sure you will have seen it. Friday night at Redcar Speedway, there was a little bit of handbags, a little bit of fisticuffs involving Jake Allen and Charles Wright. And you know what? It's something that we have talked about in Dispatches. There's been a number of discussion topics that we've featured about trying to inject a little bit more entertainment, a little bit more value for money, a little bit, some more talking points for supporters to hang on to and take home with them. And Friday night, and the reaction to it, and the number of views, and the publicity that this has generated for Speedway, I think proves our point exactly. Nigel, I'm going to bring you in because you've been very vocal about exactly this sort of stuff, Nigel. Did you enjoy seeing it, Nigel?
Well, first of all, you're not showing us any of the 1 to 15 races, are you, Derek? People aren't talking about the 1 to 15 races. Was it one of the newspapers have picked up on it, haven't they? Not one of them's picked up on about any of the races. They're only picking up on this. It's publicity, isn't it? And what do they say? No publicity is bad publicity. Speedway's at the forefront at the minute because of this. Nobody got hurt. Everybody's got helmets on, and all right, they had a roll about on the floor for a minute or two. Nobody got hurt. There's no harm done. I have read comments about where I think they said Charles or Jake, whichever one of them, should be banned and all the rest of it. What an absolute load of rubbish. You know, they're saying he should have been thrown out of the meeting, but them are the same people that will complain if the referee does throw one out of the meeting. There's only 3 riders in a race. That's not good entertainment, is it? So at the end of the day, you know, in any sport or anything, your tempers flare, don't they, and things happen, and, you know, it gets a little bit out of hand at times. Nobody's got hurt. There's no detriment to anything, and Speedway's got a lot of publicity from it. So how bad can it be?
Robbo, literally 2 minutes, Robbo, after the scenes that we're viewing on screen at the moment, both riders walked back into the pits, almost arm in arm, you know, arms around each other, having a bit of a laugh about the whole episode.
That's like Nige said, it's just no one got hurt, not a roll around, they got a bit dirty. No harm done, is that, you know, the guys have got enough protection on to race in. They're not going to get hurt. They're rolling around like that. But it's good fun, wasn't it? Look, like you just said, everyone's speaking about this. This is what they're speaking about. This is what keeps coming up. It's made the national newspapers. And yeah, like none of the races did. It was this that did it. So, you know, why not? It's obviously maybe it's not good to see, but to some people it is. Some people like it, some people don't. But it's entertaining at the end of the day. And that's what's needed, isn't it?
Big Mac, you know, the reality of this was that in the aftermath, over the weekend, I think it was, the Speedway Control Board published a statement and they suggested that both riders would be fined. I don't think they declared the amount of the fine, but I'm sure it would be multiple hundreds of pounds at least. And both, I think, have got to appear in some sort of hearing in the coming weeks and months. Is that, you know, I know that is the current rules, the current regs, Stuart, but to Nigel's point, to Robbo's point, to the point of all the publicity and all the positive reaction that this incident has caused, isn't the SCB handling a bit OTT?
Well, for a start, I've got to admit I agree with Nigel, which is a rarity. But I think it's crazy, Derek. I think it's absurd. I think the fact that, you know, the riders have had a moment, you know, they've had a wee tiff, a bit of hard racing for 60 seconds, going toe-to-toe, obviously a slight coming together. But like the guy said, there was nobody injured, nobody harmed. And do you know what? It was entertainment. Do you know, it's not nice to see 2 guys rolling about, but in that instance, they've got helmets on, they've got gloves on, they've got protective, and it's like the guy said, it's hitting the headlines for the controversial fight. You know, not the 15 races before that were probably top drawer. But I do think that to hit them with a fine, you know, I think it's wrong, personally. I think the guys have had a tiff, they've had a moment, and like the guys have said there as well, they walked back to the pits, arm in arm. They probably had a pint later on, and then they're racing in Poland the next night as teammates. So why fine them? Why cost these guys more money when they've had a disagreement on the track? I mean, Jesus, when we rode back in the day, guys, you know what I mean? I mean, the amount of times that you'd have fights on the track, you know, and, you know, some referees actually enjoyed it, believe it or not. They actually said that after it in the bar. They said, look, you know, that's what makes the Speedway entertainment. And, you know, as much as it was in the headlines for possibly the wrong reasons, it's still entertainment. It's getting a bit of exposure. But I think to find them, I just don't agree with it.
No.
Who was the referee, Derek? Do we know?
I'm not sure, actually, Nigel. I'm not sure who it was.
If the referee had got anything about him, he'd do like they used to do. He was filling his programme in and he didn't see it. That's what they used to do. Am I wrong?
Yeah.
You know, that's what they used to do. They didn't see it. You know, and let it go. But, you know, if Red Car Promotions got anything about him now, the next time Jake Allen goes up there, they want to make him public enemy number 1.
Yeah. Well, I noticed, I think I'm right in saying that Red Car are travelling to Scunthorpe this Friday night, and already the Scunthorpe promotion are making something about the...
Well, why not?
Exactly,
why not?
Exactly.
You know, that's what it, you know, get the interest going.
Right, listen,
as harsh as it may seem, Derek, sorry, Nigel's spot on there. That's what's bringing the sport to the forefront. Yeah. It's action, it's entertainment, and...
Well, the interesting thing, Stuart, for me was that, you know, you know, but social media being what it is, you know, there was many threads, including 360 Speedway, who did a bit of a feature on that scrap. But interestingly, British Speedway itself used that footage and pushed that out on its own social media channel, and therefore, in some ways, ironically capitalised on it. If you see my point.
Well, it's like
They're hypocrites. They have to fine them. They're hypocrites, then, aren't they?
100%.
They can't use it to
100%.
benefit them and then go and fine them, can they?
Yeah.
They can't punch them. They can't use it as bait and then go and kick them with it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Wrong that.
Yeah.
Listen, let's move on. But you know, we have touched on that issue before. In terms of you're trying to relax the rules around it and not actively encourage it, but you know, but allow within certain tolerances, allow that type of incident to happen in the speedway, and as long as no one is hurt, then you know what's the harm in it. And you know what, if someone does get hurt, then there are the law of the land what will apply in that situation, even though it's within a sporting arena. I'm quite sure the law of the land will kick in and be implemented. But anyway, let's move on and talk about what we wanted to, or what the 360 Speedsters voted for us to talk about. So episode 19. So listen, talk to any Speedway rider long enough, and I'm including you three in this, and the riders will at some point admit that to a certain extent at least, Speedway is in the head. I think Robbo has said very much the same thing in a previous episode. So what I did want to talk about a little bit was, is Speedway more head than tread? And really what I mean by that is how much is mental fortitude and mental strength attributable to a rider's form and consistency in point scoring, as opposed to their equipment? And so much emphasis goes into bike setup and track conditions. Is a track too slick, too heavy, too this, too that? But you know, when riders come to tapes, is Stuart Robson, I'll bring you in first. I'm giving you another opportunity to probably comment on something you have already, Stuart. But so bear with me for asking again. But how much is Speedway and a rider's form and ability attributable to their mental attitude and mental strength versus anything mechanical?
The confidence is a massive part of it. It's a huge part. I mean, you do have to have the right equipment. Don't get me wrong. That is a big too. You have to have the right equipment, and it has to be top notch. But the confidence, you still need the confidence to ride that equipment that you have. And if you haven't got the confidence, you can have the best bikes in the world and you'll not win a race. So yeah, it's a huge part of it. Percentage wise, I don't know, maybe you've got to be able to see it's got to be something like 70% confidence and 30% everything else, really. And a lot of races are won behind the scenes as well, like at the in the workshop, not at the track. You have to get everything perfect at the workshop to be able to get the bike and engines good enough to win races as well. So, but again, that's all part of the confidence thing. You have to have the confidence in your equipment as well as in your own ability and everything. You know, the track and everything. You've got to have 100% confidence in yourself to win races and to be able to pass people, to overtake, to make starts, everything. I mean, obviously now and again, you can be riding on the crest of a wave. Someone will pop out the start in front of you, and no matter what you do, you won't get past. But that doesn't happen. But on a very high percentage of the races you will win on confidence, I think.
Stuart McDonald, can you relate to this, Stuart? You know, in your earlier years, you and I have touched on this before, and I can't quite remember the detail of it, or I remember it was at Shawfield. I remember you borrowing a bike. Your bike broke down maybe at the starting gate or something like that. Out came a bike from the pits. It might have been David Walsh's from memory. You jumped on David's bike, if it was David's bike, and you won that heat, right? And you brought the house down, because it was, with complete respect to you at that stage of your career, it was a big surprise, right? You won this heat, a very important heat, and I just wonder if you can remember that particular incident, and whether you would attribute that to you having a mental boost because you were borrowing equipment that you considered to be superior. I don't know if I'm remotely correct, Stuart.
I do remember the race, Derek, and I think it was actually about heat 11. And I remember Walshy came out, and listen, I think everybody will agree that Walshy's bikes were so low down for traction, and I just thought as soon as I jumped on it, when Walshy was a heat leader, you know, Nigel was my teammate the same year, and Nigel, if he'd have gave me his bike, I would have felt the same way, or even Robert Nige, because the confidence you've got riding one of the top heat leaders' bikes.
Yeah.
I dropped the clutch and I just couldn't believe the traction I got, the way that the bike rode. I came in after that. I mean, I personally thought that I could set my bike up in the workshop. I thought the way that it was all prepared was always good enough. I was always confident in that, but when I jumped in somebody else's bike, that's when I realised that my bike setup wasn't as good as what I thought. And David Walsh's bike proved that. And I even had a race a few years after that for Scotland against England under 21s. And I jumped on Barry Campbell's bike, who at that point, no disrespect to Barry, but he wasn't a heat leader, sort of second string. And I won the race in that again. And it was obviously quite a few years apart, but the actual mentality of it is 100% like Robbo says, the confidence has got to be there, because I always had confidence in my bikes, but if your head's not right, there is just no way you're going to go and score a point. And, you know, to give you an example, I used to go to a lot of away matches, and we went to Exeter, I think it was 1992, and Les Collins did the track walk with me, and Les was actually quite not for me, and I sort of listened to that a little bit, and from then on I had that same mentality when I went to Exeter. When I turned up, I would go out on the track and just go, nah, not for me, and that was my head. You know, I wasn't tuned into that track, I wasn't confident, and there was the odd time I turned up at Sheffield, it was a similar thing, you know. I think the confidence in the head is got to be there, you know, without a doubt. If there's no confidence, the bike can be the best in the world, you know. You'll never ride it to the best of your ability if you're not confident. I do think that the confidence is massive, you know. Like I say, I had my bike set up that I thought was always 100%, but if I let Nigel tinker with it when I was in away matches, or if I let, you know, Peter Carlson or somebody like that tinker with it, they would do something and make it sharper, and you think, wow. And I think that's a massive part of it.
Nigel, there'll be all sorts of stories out there, and I'm sure you'll be able to recall and share one or two of them of riders who, you know, either at very short notice, as was the case with Stuart, had to borrow equipment, or regardless of the circumstances, they found themselves on someone else's machinery, and that experience, those 4 laps, essentially transformed them mentally, because they suddenly realised that they had the ability to win races, and could then transform and translate that mental boost that they had back on their own equipment, and suddenly it was almost like a kind of career shift experience. Can you understand what I mean by that?
Yeah, it's happened many times. I don't know. I jumped on other people's bikes, and you think, bloody hell, this feels good, like, you know, and I think you've just jumped on somebody else's, it's set up, and you've happened to make a start, and you've done well. But the top and bottom of it is, it's a confidence thing, like both Stewarts have said. Massive amount of it is confidence, and you've got to be strong in your head. I know, like I've said many times, I didn't have ability as such or anything, and going to Exeter was always a hard place to go. You know, that steel safety fence, it doesn't do you a lot of good going down there and seeing that. You know, you'd to have a strong head and a mindset that, you know, you wasn't bothered, you was going to get on with it. And yeah, you know, I've had very good meetings down at Exeter. I've also had some shockers there, you know, but you've got to dial yourself in right and make sure your head's right and everything's right. You know, as you say, the bike's got to be right. But I do hear lots of things, and I do wonder at times, you know, oh, we haven't got the bike right, we can't get the bike right, you know, we've got no points because the bike ain't right. It's not the bike half the time, it's the jockey that's sat on it. It's very easy to blame the bike all the time. Sometimes it's the jockey, it's not the bike. And again, it comes down to a confidence thing. If you're riding high on confidence, it's very easy to go from one meeting to another, and I don't say it's easy, but it is easier when everything's going right, confidence is high, and it does make life a lot easier for you. It does. But also, I do believe you've got to be strong in the head. When you go out that start, you've got to want to get to that corner. And that depends how much you want to get to that corner. You've got to want to get there first.
Yeah. Robbo, just to bring you back in, I think that there's a lot of focus these days, a lot of accreditation on the mental strength within sport. So a lot of speedway, it's crept into speedways. A lot of speedway riders, certainly within the Team GB setup, are encouraged to seek support from sports psychologists. And as I understand it, they place a lot of emphasis on visualization techniques, etc. So to Nigel's point, riders might be encouraged to visualize what they do physically to release the clutch and control the bike into that first corner and visualise themselves being first into the corner, all that stuff. I think, just remind me, Stuart, that's something you had a little bit of insight to, wasn't it, personally?
Yes, I went to see a sports psychologist. Probably, I can't remember exactly the time, but I think it would have been after 2007 when I broke my back and pelvis. I went to see a guy down in Essex, and he was good. He contacted me. He was a Speedway fan. He was a former motocross rider, actually, and he watched the Speedway. He followed it, and he contacted me about it, and I went down seeing him. I can't remember how many sessions I had with him, but what you just been seeing there, the visualization is a big part of it, and visualizing yourself dropping the clutch first, getting to the corner first, and being in front coming off the second corner. You visualize yourself doing a whole lap, maybe, or the whole 4 laps even if you really wanted to. But it was all part of it, yes. And it was interesting. It was very interesting, and it certainly didn't do me any harm. I never got back to my sort of former glory, so to speak. Obviously I wasn't world class, but I didn't do too bad at one point in the early to mid 2000s. I had a bit of a good run for a few years, and then broke my back and it sort of dwindled off. I came back a little bit, had another 10 year or so, and it was all sort of part of the sports psychology. I used it, and I did what I was sort of explained to do. There's certain triggers, what get you going and that kind of thing. And it was interesting, and it was good to use.
I find that absolutely fascinating outside, listening into that sort of insight. Stuart McDonald, we spoke to, didn't we? We spoke to the great Dane Hans Nielsen, episode 16. If you haven't seen our 2-part interview with Hans Nielsen, potentially the greatest of all time, then look back on our YouTube channel, episode 16, and sit down and enjoy that. But Stuart, when we spoke to Hans, he didn't talk about sports psychology as such, or did he? I can't remember, but he certainly did talk about visualization techniques and pretty much what Stuart Robson's just described.
Exactly. I think that when you look at the way that Hans Nielsen used to approach his races, like any top pro, he was just fully focused on one thing, and that was it. I think when you look at some of the riders nowadays, you can tell in their body language, I think, the ones that are fully dialed in. You can, you've got the Hans Nielsens of the world from 15, 20, 30, 40 years ago. Nowadays, some of the young kids nowadays, you look at them at the starts and all you see is just tunnel vision, and that's what they need. They need to be 100% focused. Like Nigel says, if you've got the desire to get to that first corner first, it's just a case of how much of it have you got to get there. And, like any sport, but with Speedway, it's amazing that over the first 30 yards, it's obviously the most critical.
I mean, here's the thing, I'm using my Glasgow knowledge here to share this, and I'm sure this isn't the only example of this, but Glasgow's recent signing, the young Danish teenage sensation, Viad Snail, he's only written in the UK for 6-7 meetings, 8 meetings maybe for Glasgow, predominantly at home so far. He doesn't hit the equipment. He's really impressed. So within that short period, he's holding a 7.5 average or something, never having ridden in the UK before. he races on borrowed equipment. None of the equipment that he races on is his own equipment. And the reason that I example that is because, to me, here we are talking about mental fortitude and positivity and visualization and all these great sort of mental strengths. So Viad's, is borrowing equipment, and he's doing what he's doing, and he's doing it in a very stylish and impressive way. Even though the physical equipment that he's sitting on and racing on, he's not familiar with at all. And that kind of blows my mind a little bit, and it kind of makes me even more super impressed by that particular young man. Stuart McDonald, you've seen Viad's, I think, haven't you?
And do you know what, Derek? He might be one of these guys that comes along every 10, 15 years. I mean, I think we can all agree that in the last 20 years, Darcy Ward's probably the most natural, gifted rider to grace the sport on a speedway bike. What Darcy Ward could do, and I don't think Darcy Ward was 100% focused. He was wild. Darcy was wild. He was out there. He was always having a laugh. You didn't see him sitting channeling his visualization, getting ready. He was just always having a laugh, a giggle. And I think he was one that could jump in anybody's bike and do it. And with this lad at Glasgow, it looks like he's sort of along the same lines. To have that sort of average on borrowed equipment in such a short period of time. Watch this space.
Nigel, it's what I'm going to be a little bit more profound, Nigel. So we are talking about speedway, but I'm kind of broadening it a little bit. It's what we're really talking about: personal resilience. Because life throws curveballs and challenges at you. Speedway throws curveballs and challenges at you. Are we really talking about an individual's ability to mentally cope, cater for, and conquer some of these challenges that speedway throws at us?
Well, yeah, you're talking about your man at Glasgow. How old is he, Derek? How old is your man up there? Nigel, how old is he?
He's only 17, 18, Nigel.
Yeah, Darcy Ward, you're going on about Darcy, aren't you? I can remember him coming to Stoke, and I think he used one of King's Lynn. Who did he ride for when he first came over, Darcy? I can't forget who he rode for. In the second division, who would he ride for? I can't remember now. I can't remember. Pardon?
It wasn't Isle of Wight, was it, to begin with? I can't remember.
No, Stuart, you'll know.
No, I don't think it was Isle of Wight.
It's too long ago.
No, it wasn't Isle of Wight.
He did.
Who were it, Robbo?
He rode for Poole, didn't he? But that was...
No, that was first division, wasn't it? But I can remember him coming to Stoke in the second division. Whoever it was with, I don't know. And they said he was on a bike borrowed from Buster Chapman, something like that. But, he was a young kid that wanted to ride his bike, and that's what he went and did. He got a bike and he rode it. The young lads, aren't they? They don't know anything different. They just get on, and if they're of that mentality and they're not bothered, just get on and ride them, don't they? As you get on, a bit more experienced, if you like, and everything, you get used to your own comforts, don't you? But I think at that age, I don't think it matters to them, does it? They just get on and ride it, I think, really. I don't know, but he's certainly something special. Your man you've got up at Glasgow there.
He is. The ambivalence of youth, Nigel. I think that's how we'll sum up segment 1. 360 Speedsters. So. Do remind us, who did Darcy Ward ride for in the second division?
I can't remember who he came to Stoke with. Can't remember now. Can't remember.
I remember Jason Doyley was with Isle of Wight. I can't remember if where Darcy rode. But anyway, I'm sure someone out there will remind us, Nigel. So there you are, 360 Spaces. We're back in business. Fans Pulse Lap 1 completed. A little bit of a round the houses on more head than tread. Again, as ever, we invite you to share your views, your insight, your theories.